Hi, it's Lakme here, and before we start this week's episode, I need your help. Next year, I am taking on the biggest charity challenge I've ever done. Now, for those of you who know me well, you know I love to do things for charity ever since I was a child, from sponsored dance-a-thons, sponsored silences. Yes, I know, hard to believe me being quiet, right? Sponsored abseilings down buildings, and last year, even sleeping out on the streets of London in the middle of October in just a sleeping bag. I really try and push and immerse myself in things to raise money for good causes. And next year, I am climbing Mount Kilimanjaro for not one, but two amazing children's charities: Cordwell Children, who help disabled and autistic children all over the world, and Cordwell Youth, who empower at-risk adults aged 11 to 24. Now, this is the biggest challenge I've ever taken on because, number one, the target I need to hit is the biggest one to date. I need to raise £5,000, all of which goes to the charities, because actually the trip and expedition itself is self-funded. But hey, if you're a business and would like to sponsor that side of it, please get in touch with me. And number two, I've never climbed a mountain in my life. Although I did make up my mind at age 5 that I did find a mountain in Canada and claimed it as my own. But that's a story for another day. So please, if you are able to make a donation, no matter how big or small, it will really help me reach that target. And I will be forever grateful to you, as will the children who the money will go to. So thank you again. The link will be in the show notes below. And enjoy this week's episode. Welcome to the 111 Approach podcast, your go-to space for deep thoughts, real talk, and exploration of everything from spirituality to self-development and the mysteries of life, with some light-hearted humour along the way. I'm your host, Lakme, aka the 1 Minute Healer, and each episode will dive into different topics, sometimes personal, sometimes thought-provoking, but always authentic. So whether you're here for some new perspectives, inspiration, or just a fresh take on the world with a bit of randomness thrown into the mix, you're definitely in the right place. So what are you waiting for? Let's get into it. Hi, it's Lakme here, and before we start this week's episode, I need your help. Next year, I am taking on the biggest charity challenge I've ever done. Now, for those of you who know me well, you know I love to do things for charity ever since I was a child, from sponsored dance-a-thons, sponsored silences. Yes, I know, hard to believe me being quiet, right? Sponsored abseilings down buildings, and last year, even sleeping out on the streets of London in the middle of October in just a sleeping bag. I really try and push and immerse myself in things to raise money for good causes. And next year, I am climbing Mount Kilimanjaro for not one, but two amazing children's charities: Cordwell Children, who help disabled and autistic children all over the world, and Cordwell Youth, who empower at-risk adults aged 11 to 24. Now, this is the biggest challenge I've ever taken on because, number one, the target I need to hit is the biggest one to date. I need to raise £5,000, all of which goes to the charities, because actually the trip and expedition itself is self-funded. But hey, if you're a business and would like to sponsor that side of it, please get in touch with me. And number two, I've never climbed a mountain in my life. Although I did make up my mind at age 5 that I did find a mountain in Canada and claimed it as my own. But that's a story for another day. So please, if you are able to make a donation, no matter how big or small, it will really help me reach that target. And I will be forever grateful to you, as will the children who the money will go to. So thank you again. The link will be in the show notes below. And enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the 111 Approach podcast with me, Lakme, aka the 1 Minute Healer. And as always, I start and end everything I do with gratitude. So thank you. Today's episode, you've got a very special treat because I have a beautiful soul who is a Feng Shui master, or should I say classically trained Feng Shui master. And we'll learn a little bit more about what that is. I'm going to let her introduce herself properly, but she is a wealth of knowledge in Feng Shui, internationally recognized expert in this field. Incredible. Aelita Leto. She has an amazing name as well, can I just say? It's such a beautiful name. Aelita, thank you so much for coming on. Could you give us a little bit of your origin story, because you've been in the Feng Shui game probably longer than some of these listeners have been alive, have you not? But you don't look it, because you look incredible. Like, honestly, when I looked at the stats, I was like, 1989? How is that possible? Did you start when you were like 0?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lakme. Well, Thank you for having me with among your beautiful community. Yes, once happy to share the classical feng shui training and my passion for Chinese metaphysics. Because when you're looking back to what is feng shui, it's not just the one thing. It's just a, it's just a part of the five branches.
Yes. And this is what I want to get into because it's become a little bit like yoga, right? People just think yoga and they just think it's all about poses, but it's so much more than that. So we'll get into that bit in a second. But I'd love for you to give us your origin story. Like, where did you grow up? How was your
Okay.
childhood? And then how did you get into the feng shui and what you're doing now?
Well, originally from Latvia, born
Mhm.
and raised in Riga, and that's the times when we still were under the Soviet Union era. So exposure to spirituality was definitely more coming from my family, from my ancestry, and especially from my mother's side. So, like, I know that my grandma in Latgale was a healer, and even though I never met her in person, the energetical value and spiritual value got reborn or gifted, further. And from my father's side, with my grandma, all my summers and all my winter breaks, I spent in the countryside. So as a city girl, I was on a field, knew how to plant, how to harvest, how to adjust the moon phases, how to learn when is the time to plant and pick, and that's what the that's what the knowledge that our
Oh,
grandmas give us. And when we talk about feng shui, it actually is how you work the land in accordance with the seasons, with the timeliness, and understanding, optimizing the timing and potential. But when I moved, had a chance to live abroad in London in 1989, I did came across one of the first books on feng shui, and that was based on the Western school of thought. It was kind of primitive, primitive way of applying it, and what I tested, whatever I did, it worked. I got very curious, and later on, when I moved to US, I really passionately developed the interest in Chinese astrology and metaphysics and in acupuncture and medical qigong and tai chi and you name it, the Buddhism, Taoism, Christian mysticism, that is all the spiritual aspect is part of the metaphysics. And that's what makes me to be a successful consultant to this day.
wow. So did you just come to London to study then?
No, that was during the Soviet when we were gaining our independence. And that battles was between 89 and 91. That's exactly when I was in UK. I would
Oh,
say I was luckily stuck in UK before I returned back. And I was never thought that metaphysics was going to be my career. It was definitely was something my own individual spiritual development and spiritual awareness because there was no such a thing during the Soviets were part of the culture.
mm.
And our culture as Latvians, we deeply, deeply connect to the land. And that's where I I drive the parallels between Taoism and paganism because it's we talk about um, we talk about the gods of the land, the wind, the sun, the moon, in a very in the spiritual aspect, but also as the powers. And so just being exposed from that sense as a Latvian and connecting to the Taoist beliefs of feng shui, I found ease in connecting. In addition, my studies in physics mathematics when I was at university in Latvia, that gave me another like a interest in numbers and sacred geometry and quantum physics.
Very similar to me. Like I love the whole science aspect of it, the metaphysics, quantum physics. Um, and just take us into, if you wouldn't mind, because obviously the listeners, your community will probably know a lot more in depth about feng shui because obviously they follow you. Whereas the people who are listening from my community, they may not know what feng shui is, so and what the different branches and all these things. So because there's a lot of misconceptions around feng shui, right? because when I came to you, and just for the listeners, we did a little service swap as well. And I want to talk about my experience of working with your energy and your advice and redoing my whole home. And then obviously I did some energy healing for you as well. But I had some thoughts about where my wealth corner is and where my love and relationships. And you just very much was laughing at me. It was like, what's going on? I was like, I thought I did the map and I did the compass, and because there's a lot of things out there that are quite confusing for people. So could you just take us through that? Just firstly, the basics of what Feng Shui is. What's the difference between the Western and the Eastern, and these branches that you talk of? Just
Yeah, I'll try to be brief in
yes.
this because, well, first of all, when we talk about feng shui, it is an art, it is a science, it's a way of life.
Mm. And it's pronounced feng shui, not feng shui. How
Feng shui,
feng
feng shui,
shui, feng
yeah,
shui.
feng
Yeah,
shui,
okay. Because a
yeah,
lot of people pronounce it feng shui,
yeah.
right? But it's feng
Chinese
shui.
would say feng shui, feng shui, feng shui. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Okay,
So
so
it's not, it's probably the people who hear about feng shui at first, they probably are desperate to correct a certain aspect in their living environment or in their life.
mhm,
They keen for improved love relationships or health or wealth. That's the maybe very very primitively common, and they seek cu- cures, which
mm,
we call like they seek for something that would just be like a pill. It's the Western mindset, give me the pill and I'll be well.
mm.
Where in my practice and how I want to reveal this art and science is a way of living and your alignment with the existing tangible environment. You can start with your basic room, basic home, basic apartment, basic neighborhood, the country, world. So from microcosm to macrocosm. So your way of being at the center of this continuously chaotic chain, the very basic, simplest definition. What is feng shui? It is your ability to adapt quickly. When you are out of balance, when you are out of sync with the events, where you're out of financial situations or love situations, that you are not at ease. Sometimes they're structured the neighborhood or your environment, physical environment is reflecting because everything is energy. Energy is everything, tangible and non-tangible. You walk in the room and you light up and pivot the atmosphere. So this is also our ability to be mindfully observant, to understand your circumstances and your surroundings.
So feng shui is more than just moving furniture around in your house. It really is fully in being in alignment, because really your first house is your body, right? So you have to make sure you are in alignment with your first true home, which is this body of yours, and then your exterior home
Mhm.
kind of mirrors that.
It's not about fixing. A lot of people want to say, you go to doctors, fix me. Just like having these shortcuts. We have to kind of sometimes look at like, why are you born? What are your talents? What is your predisposition at birth? That's where the feng shui is not by itself. It's also in the traditional China. It was more
Mm.
related to like called geomancy, where this the place and time, how you place things and how timely those are, it also makes a difference. Deep, deep connection to also our ancestry. The things that we embody, the things we inherit, not necessarily this that we create this lifetime. We also make commitments from the previous lifetimes. So that's kind of the metaphysical, philosophical add to it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, because I learned a few nuggets of wisdom there. So, what are the differences between the Western and the classical styles?
So there's different schools of thought. right?
Okay.
There's a form school, there's a compass school, there's a Western school, there's tons of different formulas and applications. But I would like to focus on something that is very, very tangible and important to understand the same way, like we say, the cash is king, right? In feng shui, form, tangible form is the king, is very important. That's how we situate ourselves, how we build our physical environment, where the doors and windows and how the energy flows, how you situate your bed or situate your desk and etc. This is all based, that's the physical form. Then you add a compass direction, which is you observe, what type of energy, how much sunlight comes through your door, through your windows. Is the conditions of the certain rooms that are either yin or yang, right? Like, for example, the place where you cook and you entertain is the yang energy. You entertain, you bring guests, you serve the table. But when you want to be a quiet and charming, you go to your bed, right? So you want to have the energy to be like feeling that nourishes you, lets you rest. So, and this is where the feng shui is also looks at the yin and yang aspect, five elements or five transformations, and your compass direction, your personal compass direction. So there's everything is by association. So it's not just by formulas. If everything would be by formula, then when you would come to doctors, they would not look at your heartbeat and pulse. They would just give you a pill, right?
So what you're saying is, am I right in thinking that my home, the way it is set out now, thanks to you, is based on my birth chart, um my time of birth and everything else, right? So say if, for example, if somebody else came in and was living in this home, same house,
Mhm.
their feng shui setup might
It's
differ.
different. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. This is it. So it's very individual. It's like you said,
It's
like, because
absolutely, it's a personal.
yeah. No, because it's interesting because there's a lot of things out there. I see it so much on the internet and books and stuff. They just say, oh, get a layout of your house, mark it off, and then, southwest is the wealth corner and this corner and that corner.
Yeah, that's a Western approach to come to something to fix it. I don't say it's wrong. I'm glad that there's some awareness created,
Mm.
but it's not optimized. It's almost like to be in the first grade and learning numbers, 1, 2, 3, right? But what you can
Yeah.
do with numbers when you are doing algebra and geometry, you start
Yeah.
understanding sequences, you start understanding different connections to it.
Yeah. Brilliant. So what happens then? Like I'm currently living by myself. So what if, and we're manifesting this now, my soulmate, my partner, my husband to be comes in and actually we want to live at his house because mine's just a small place. But anyway, just for example, I have someone come in and live with me now. How does it work then? Because there's two people living in that house now, and but it's set up in my energy, in my birth chart.
First of all, you're welcoming somebody into your space. That means there is a love and connection, or there is a definitely a connection. And people, I think, will be willing to naturally accommodate a life partner, right? So that this definitely is an adjustment. You observe as a practitioner. Let's say if we talk about bedroom, we focus on who needs the most support.
Wow. Okay.
I always observe and see maybe one person thrives financially, but they don't thrive health wise. Let's say if the husband is a provider, but diminishing his health, guess what am I doing? I'm going to be adjusting and focusing in a bedroom that his sleep. I will be making sure that the environment where it's rejuvenating him is compatible more to his needs.
Mm.
Okay.
So okay, this is brilliant. This is so interesting because I never knew any of this, and I'm sure a lot of people listening would not have known that because we think it's one size fits all. Um, so what happens is okay. So I've invited this person in. We live together, but what happens? We get married. We want to buy a house together. We have kids. So then. call it a blank canvas. We've got a new home.
Mhm.
We have kids. So how does that work then? Do you take both of our bio data?
We you ins when you are moving to the new place, a new home, first of all, we do the charts also for the house, birth chart of the house.
A birth chart for the house.
Yes,
Wow.
depends when the house was built. So you do the chart based when the house was built, what
Mhm,
direction it sits and faces. Where's the
mhm,
main door? Because not necessarily where the main door is, that's the facing direction of the property. So there's a lot
mhm,
of practical calculations, compass reading, etc. And we correlate that information to our feng shui tools. So based on that tool, I also calculate your birth chart. Maybe you're a West group and the house is a West group and the person, your partner is a East group. Feng Shui is not about good or bad. It's actually is about um, creating the energy flow, energy like chi in a space that feeds, both. Then you're looking at more organic form of the community. It's a bigger way of looking at you. There's just so many variables to it. And as we know, most of the time we don't have a privilege to build a perfect feng shui property. We have to adapt, and this
mm,
adaptation process is what requires the expert to link the land, the building with your personal capacity, intention, and then you accommodate. We want to make sure that the wishes are appropriately, the intention is appropriate to the of the capacity of the human being in the space with the capacity of the physical space. Like you just said as well, like, you rather move in with your spot with you versus the person moves in with you because your space is kind of tiny, right?
yeah. Cozy. It's very cozy.
Cozy. Cozy. Okay. Oh, that's definitely your space is charming and cozy. Yes, but that's your little nest. That's
Mm,
charming because that's you. So if I
mm,
if I move in, but I might be in a different time of my life. I might be already retiring and I might be already, thinking about the grandkids and I'm thinking about writing books. I would create the environment completely different. What you're doing as a practice in your spare room, maybe that's going to be like a future baby room. I don't know. Do you see? It's like the
mm.
application has a variables. So it's not just like a cookie cutter.
What you're saying is as you move through your life chapters, so should your feng shui of your home because your intentions change. So you
Yes.
should look at getting a refresh.
Absolutely. They are
Mhm.
cyclical. There's a function that times that change daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, in a 10-year decade, in a 20-year decade. It depends how much you're looking into it. For example, just give you a very brief example. Family of five, let's say, and very successful. They raise kids, and it's a five-bedroom home. And now they're like an empty nesters.
Yeah.
Okay. House feels energetically drained. You can actually feel like, okay, for some while you enjoy the quietness. But as you grow older and you have to fill in those five bedrooms, energetically speaking, that silence and quietness becomes actually negative aspect, the loneliness and depression, because there's no chi activators. A quick adjustment, of course, is you could have a pets. That's why there's sometimes there's the cats and dogs. People have their animals by their side, but
Mm.
that's also bringing the different side of the energetical component into that living space. So energy changes.
So does your feng shui also change when you bring pets in?
Yes, of course.
Oh, so interesting.
Of course.
Interesting.
Even the
Mhm.
plants, the way you nourish plants and how the plants thrive is also feng shui.
I know. You were laughing at my money tree in my wealth corner, and you're laughing again now.
It's thriving,
So,
huh?
well, it was almost dying. I think I've nursed it back to life, which is great. Okay, because let's give the listeners some tips that are kind of baseline, like foundations that everyone could do. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Closing
Good.
the lid on your toilet. So, men, listen. Toilet seat down, please. Always.
Mm.
Everyone should be doing that. Closing your bathroom door. Is there any more?
Yeah. So, first of all, I will gonna ask all your listeners a question. Is it a house or a home? And what's the difference? What do you think is the difference?
For me, a house is just where you live. It's a roof over your head. Whereas a home, it has your personality, it has your love, it has your energy. It's comforting. Anywhere
It's
could be a
yours.
house, but your energy makes it a home, right?
Yeah. So the simplified is the house is a house, but when you love your house, it becomes home.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Either you're renting or you're owning, it's everything is temporarily. So
Yeah.
you first of all you want to surround yourself with the things that are practical and you love it.
Mm.
Practical and love it. Um, we want to make sure that we talk about clutter. I always say house is not a museum. Okay. Some clutter, kids' toys, it's a nature of being as long as you can quickly, naturally come back to order. Right? We are human beings and we are in this fast-paced living and it's so understandable. But understanding where it accumulates the most. Let's say we want to have the clarity outside the door and inside the door as you enter the threshold. That's when the
Mhm.
energy shifts. So what motivates you to come home? What is it that you cross the threshold and it puts a smile on your face? So I would say, please, one of the best adjustments at any house is that if you can come up with your own personal way that when you cross the threshold, it puts a smile. It could be a note. It could be a picture of your children. It could be a picture of goofiness. And especially during the year of a fire horse, when we are encouraged to laugh and to giggle and to have a laughing meditation rather than sitting boring meditation, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is like people have tendencies of having everything in white. A lot of too much white color is the you are looking for life imperfectionist. So thinking about contrast. We want to make sure that your bed has a headboard, that
Hmm.
your crown chakra is not exposed directly to the empty kind of the bare wall, but you have a solid, wood or leather or fabric headboard to protect
Hmm.
another layer of protection. I think it's very important that you have this grounding feeling that when you come to your place where you rest is very different by feel where you come to play and work.
Yes, that's
Okay.
so true. And getting rid of screens in your bedroom. I grew up without a TV in my bedroom. The only time I had a TV was when I was renting a room. So obviously, you have to have your TV in your bedroom because you only have one room. But my ex is the one who wanted a TV in the bedroom, and then now I think I had kept it in there just as habit, and it was just when we had our exchange, and you said, and
Yeah.
then I said, actually, I didn't even want that in the first place. I don't know why it's still in my bedroom. I have to say, since I've taken it out, I sleep so much deeper. I never used to watch TV in my bedroom anyway. I'd just
Yeah.
come and sleep. But just taking it out and not having it first feels so much lighter, and I
Yeah.
sleep so much deeper.
So, and again, I don't want to say it's also always depends. The adjustments always depends. We can be very strict and say no TVs in a bedroom,
Mm,
but in a case when somebody has lost their partner, let's say somebody who grown old, and langing is like say not having maybe kids around or grandkids around, and sometimes TV could be enough fire chi that connects you to something as entertainment, as an energy generator, right?
oh,
So,
okay.
but for the young couple who maybe they have to, think rather about making babies, not the observing babies. Maybe the TV is not the best thing. Do you understand? It's like, what's
Yeah.
appropriate? Nothing is really set in stone. And this is what my teachings to future feng shui practitioners and advice is that we have to assess what is naturally existing and flowing and appropriate and assess the capacity. And it's nothing has been like applies the same rule for the same person. We, of course, as a practitioners, we have tools to, it's like a surgeons, right? Surgeons
Mm.
have different kind of tools, but when you do the
Yeah.
surgery, I don't think they use them all.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on
So it depends
yeah.
what they issue. So this is sometimes these adjustments or consultations that I do,
Mhm.
and people maybe don't see those things in such a way. But when you have objective expert with that mindset who understands what is your capacity, what is your intention, assesses the land, assesses the space, understands the light, understands and brings the balance, that is the way of living with feng shui and manifesting it.
Exactly, and in that way as well, energy healing for yourself and for your home, because as I alluded to earlier, your first home is your body, so you need to be working on your own energy, your own alignment, removing all those blocks, removing all that clutter, allowing
Mhm.
that chi and the energy to move through yourself, but then you replicate that in your home, and when you do both things together, like what we did, it really is very powerful energy moving through not just yourself and your home, but it also impacts the people around you as well. I mean, absolutely mind blowing things that I've learnt today. And so I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. And also thank you so much for helping me shape my home as well. I'm going to leave all the links. So please go and follow, support. And if you'd like to book a consultation, I highly recommend it. We always end on a 1 minute meditation. So I will guide us through that before we leave. But is there any final closing statements, thoughts you'd like to share before we do so?
One final thought is don't look for what is wrong with your space or what is wrong with the person. Look what's good and make it better always.
Yes.
Okay, because we have a tendency in the West to be looking when digging to this pathology. So that would
I
be
love
my
that.
biggest recommendation. And second of
Oh,
all, I really hope that this year you will, and if I would be happy to lead that through if you be open to it, to laughing 1 minute laughing meditation,
yes, let's do it.
which is so appropriate for
Yes.
Year of the Young Fire Horse. And I wanted to finish this beautiful connection, and I think we should do it again because there's so
Hmm.
much more to success
We're gonna
with
have
my
to have
way.
one for a little mini series, I think, because there's like you said,
Yeah.
there's 5 branches, and we've only ever just talked about one, so there's so many. So I'd love to have you come back on, and we can do a little mini series of what real feng shui is. But I would, you know what? And I'm not even going to say it's funny because it is very much aligned energetically. When you were talking about that bit about laughing energy, I was like, right, we're going to do either a smiling meditation or a laughing meditation. I was like, this is what we're going to do today.
Okay.
I would be happy for you to lead it because I always
Okay.
have to do it. So this would be brilliant.
Okay. So let's inhale. Let's ground ourselves. Let's inhale the earth chi, heaven chi. Oh. Let's inhale again, earth chi, heaven chi. Ah. One more time. Inhale, earth chi, heaven chi. Ah. Put our left hand on the heart, the right hand over. Start feeling your heartbeat. Make a big smile. Let me see. You have like difference in your cheeks, and we start with the ha. Ha.
Ha! My cheeks are hurting. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh my gosh. My cheeks are actually hurting. Wow, my face feels so tight. Thank you so much. So let's just bring it back now. If you're still laughing, ooh, if you're still laughing, carry on. Um, just just as we said, there's something, I don't know what happened just
You
there.
moved it.
Something just
You
knocked
pushed.
the
You
energy.
moved the energy.
We moved the energy so much so that my door opened and knocked something over. So wow, that's the power of this. Oh my gosh, the laughter. I mean, I think we can just take a nice deep breath in and out, bringing that all to a close, because I feel that was about a minute actually with everything going on. Thank you so much. But can I just say, at first, I was a little bit like, oh, are we just forcing this laughter? But then very quickly, it actually turned into real belly laughter. And it is just a beautiful way to shift that energy so much so. Like I said, my door
Yeah,
opened by
and
itself.
I so you see, it's just becomes more natural, and
Yeah.
we need more laughter on this world. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
You so much. And it's no coincidence that earlier today I had 4 clients and we were just talking about the need to bring in more humor, more laughter, because life is hard and it is deep. And you know what? It's deep, but it ain't that deep. As in
Mhm.
that, like, yes, we go through a lot of stuff and there's a lot of trauma and there's a lot of energy work and everything. But the more we can make it light of it as well as
Mhm.
duality, it will make it easier for us to move through. But thank you so much. I want everyone to go and follow and book a consultation, and go and see more of your work. It's absolutely amazing. Remember to please download, like, share this episode with someone who maybe you know who does feng shui and they actually don't really know it. They might learn something new, because I did. So do that. Share it on your socials. Tag us both in. We'll share it. And I will see you all on the next episode, sending you love, light, and blessings.